Brad has secured the ladder to the side of the load. Now he's going to ensure that he's got 70 degrees between himself and the ladder. With his arms stretched out and his feet at the bottom of the ladder, he has now acquired a 70-degree angle. He is now going to use 3-point contact to climb to the top of the load. Brad is now, as he's walking up the top of the ladder, checking to ensure that he's got no holes and looking for his trip points to make sure that he always knows exactly where he's stepping and walking on top of the load. You can see he's checking to make sure that everything is solid and that everything is ready for him to go. Brad's now going to move the tarp to the end of the trailer. This tarp is folded in thirds. He's now going to unhook the J-hooks, making sure that the flap is hanging just past the end of the load. And he's placing them so he can easily get to it. He's making sure that the flap is over the back of the trailer and off the load. He's now unrolling and putting himself in a position where he's walking forward instead of working backwards. He pulls it tight and starts the unfold process. Once again, this tarp is folded in thirds. He's now deploying one side all the way down. If you noted, the tarp fell and pretty much fell all by itself off the load. He's now centering the tarp on the back of the load, making sure not to expose his back to any open side of the truck. This is a back tarp, so the tongue goes down before we bring the ends around. He's also making sure that all of his ropes are off the top, so he has them to work with on the ground. He's now going to come back to the end and secure his top 3 D-rings on his back flap. Brad is also making sure that when he is putting the J-hook in, that he's making sure that the J-hook is pointed away from the tarp. The reason that Brad is using 3 J-hooks on the back is because anytime you can work from the ground, you're farther ahead and safer. He's now going to go to the back of the tarp and pull up the slack, making sure that his center line is on the center of the load. And Brad's now climbing down the ladder, using 3 points of contact all the way down. And is now going to begin his groundwork. And cut. Brad is now going to show the proper way to secure the back flap on the load. It's really important that we maintain a seal between the trailer and the product to ensure that our loads stay dry. Brad has folded the flap of the tongue up and under so it helps create that seal. He now has taken the D-ring from the flap itself and pulled it forward to secure the bottom. Always using just the outside D-ring, not the D-ring that you folded up. This ensures that we get that proper seal across the bottom of the load. He is now taking the side flaps and flipping it up to achieve that seal once again. Taking one of his bungees, hooking it to the trailer so it stays up, and now doing the same to the other side. Lifting up, creating the right height, and still maintaining the seal. He's now finishing the back from the ground in a safe position. Brad is now taking and folding up the front end of the tarp. He's going to take his permanently tied line, hooking it through 2 D-rings, stretching the tarp tight, always maintaining that the tarp remains tight so that the load will look right. He does not need the bottom row of rope, so he is rolling it up and going to stick it up underneath the tarp. Always making sure that his hooks are faced away from the tarp. Brad is now going to run along the side and tack this side of the tarp down. This is a quick move down the side of the truck just to make sure that the tarp is tacked at roughly the height that you want it on the finished tarping. What we do on one side, we do on the other. Brad's now moving to the other side of the truck. And is going to once again pull the tarp forward, stretching the tarp, keeping the tarp tight. He's going to lift it to the height that he wants, catching 2 D-rings, now coming down and tacking the tarp. Once again, this is a quick move from back to front on the tarp, ensuring that he's getting it close to the height that he wants on his finished product. Once again, Brad doesn't need the lower one. He's rolling it up and sticking it underneath the tarp. Brad is now going to move to the back of the trailer and start tying down the same side that he just tacked. By placing your hook up high, it's going to further make a seal on the back of your trailer. He is now tying down the side. Making sure to pull down and making sure that he also keeps 50% of the rub rail showing. Always pulling forward.